Hey guys, tonight we begin with something that should never have happened. Children in a meat grinder. We are diving into what it was really like to be a teenage soldier in World War I. Forget the glory, forget the heroism, forget everything you have seen in the movies. The truth is so much darker, and chances are, you would not have made it through your first week. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from and what time it is for you. It is always fascinating to see who is joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let us ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you have just lied about your age and joined the British Army. You are 16 years old. You told the recruitment officer you were 19, and he pretended to believe you because the Western Front is eating men faster than the Empire can replace them. Your mother cried when you left. Your father shook your hand and told you to make him proud. Your younger sister gave you a ribbon to keep in your pocket. You are so excited you can barely sleep. This is going to be the adventure of your lifetime. You have no idea what you have just done to yourself. Chapter 1. The lie that bought your ticket. So let us start with how you even got here. You were standing in a recruitment office in 1915. The posters outside show strong men in crisp uniforms, smiling as they march toward glory. Your country needs you. It will all be over by Christmas. Do your bit. Every single message is designed to make you feel like less of a man if you do not sign up. You are 16 years old, but you look older. You have been working since you were 12, so your hands are rough and your shoulders are broad. When the recruitment sergeant asks your age, you stand up straight and lie through your teeth. 19, sir. He looks at you for exactly 3 seconds. He knows you are lying. You know he knows. But here is the thing nobody tells you about World War I recruitment. They needed bodies more than they needed honesty. The British Army needed 100,000 new soldiers every single month just to replace the casualties on the Western Front. Every month. Think about that number. That is more than the population of most cities, just to fill the gaps left by the dead and wounded. So when a healthy-looking boy walks in and claims to be 19, the sergeant does not ask for a birth certificate. He just hands you the papers and tells you to sign. Your parents do not know yet. You are going to surprise them. You picture yourself coming home in uniform, medals on your chest, stories to tell. You imagine the girls in your village looking at you differently. You imagine your father finally seeing you as a man. These thoughts fill your head as you sign your name on the enlistment form. The medical examination is a joke. The doctor listens to your heart for about 15 seconds. He checks your teeth like you are a horse being sold at market. He asks if you can see the chart on the wall. You can. Congratulations, you are fit for service. Never mind that you have never fired a gun. Never mind that you have never been more than 20 miles from your home. Never mind that you still get scared during thunderstorms. You are a soldier now. They issue you a uniform that does not fit. The jacket is too big in the shoulders and too tight in the chest. The boots are stiff leather that will take weeks to break in, and by the time they are comfortable, your feet will be covered in blisters that never fully heal. The puttees are long strips of cloth that wrap around your calves, and nobody shows you the right way to put them on. So you just copy what the other recruits are doing and hope for the best. Training lasts 6 weeks. 6 weeks to turn a farm boy into a fighting man. You learn to march in formation. You learn to dig a trench, though the practice trenches are nothing like what is waiting for you in France. You learn to fix a bayonet and charge at a dummy made of straw. The instructors yell constantly. They call you names you have never heard before. They make you do push-ups in the mud when you mess up the rifle drill. You learn to fire a Lee-Enfield rifle. Kicks harder than you expected. The noise makes your ears ring. You are supposed to fire 15 rounds per minute, and the instructors scream at you when you are too slow. Your shoulder bruises from the recoil. Your hands shake from the weight of holding the rifle steady. But you get better. Everyone gets better. You have to. At night, you sleep in barracks with 60 other recruits. The bunks are hard and narrow. Someone always snores. Someone always has nightmares. You write letters home and tell your family that training is going well. You tell them the food is decent, which is a lie. You tell them you are making friends, which is true. You bond with the other boys in your unit because you are all equally terrified and equally determined not to show it. And then one morning they tell you training is over. You are shipping out to France. Tomorrow. You are not ready. Nobody is ever ready. But ready or not, you are going to war. Chapter 2. The Crossing. You are on a ship crossing the English Channel. It is crowded beyond belief. Hundreds of soldiers packed onto a vessel designed for maybe half that number. You are standing on the deck because below deck makes you nauseous. The sea is gray and choppy. The wind cuts through your uniform like it is made of paper. This is your first time on a boat. Back home, the biggest body of water you ever saw was the river that ran through your village. Now you are surrounded by water in every direction, and it stretches to the horizon like the edge of the world. Some of the men are excited. They joke and laugh and talk about what they are going to do to the Germans. Others are quiet, staring at the waves with expressions you cannot quite read. You feel the weight of your kit for the first time. Really feel it. 60 pounds of equipment strapped to your body. Rifle, ammunition, entrenching tool, gas mask, water bottle, rations, extra boots, greatcoat, all of it pressing down on your shoulders, making every movement awkward and heavy. You try to shift the weight, but there is no comfortable way to carry 60 pounds. The smell of diesel fuel mixes with the salt air and the sweat of too many men in too small a space. Someone near you is vomiting over the side of the ship. The sound makes your own stomach turn, but you force yourself to look away, to focus on the distant coastline that is slowly disappearing behind you. An officer walks past, telling everyone to stay alert for U-boats. German submarines patrol these waters, and if one decides to put a torpedo into your transport ship, you are going to the bottom of the channel with 1,000 other men. There are no lifeboats. There are no life jackets. There is just hope that the destroyer escort can keep you safe. You reach into your pocket and feel the ribbon your sister gave you. It is silk, pale blue, already starting to fray from how many times you have touched it. You wonder what she is doing right now. Probably at school, learning arithmetic or history or something else that feels impossibly distant from where you are standing. You wonder if she knows you lied about your age. You wonder if she would be proud or angry. The French coast appears slowly, a dark line against the gray sky. As you get closer, you start to see details. Buildings, docks, cranes, and soldiers. So many soldiers. Thousands of them, moving like ants along the shoreline, loading and unloading supplies, marching information, waiting for transport. This is Boulogne, one of the main ports for British forces heading to the Western Front. You disembark down a narrow gangplank, your heavy kit making every step precarious. Your boots hit solid ground for the first time in hours, and the world seems to tilt for a moment as your body adjusts. The docks are chaos. Officers shouting orders. Sergeants herding men into formation. Horses whinnying as they are led off transport ships. The clang of metal on metal as equipment is unloaded. Welcome to France. There is no ceremony. No one welcomes you or shakes your hand or thanks you for your service. You are just another body being processed through the machine. You form up with your unit and start marching. Away from the sea, toward the sound you cannot quite hear yet but soon will never stop hearing. The sound of artillery. The sound of the guns. The march is long. Longer than any march during training. Your new boots dig into your heels with every step. You can feel the blisters forming, hot spots of pain that you know will only get worse. But you do not complain. Nobody complains. Complaining marks you as weak, and weak men do not last long out here. You pass through French villages. The civilians watch you with expressions you cannot interpret. Not gratitude, not hostility, just a kind of weary acknowledgement. They have seen thousands of soldiers march through their towns. You are nothing special. You are just the latest batch. And then, as the sun starts to set on your first day in France, you hear it. A low rumble in the distance, like thunder that never stops. The veterans in your unit do not even react. But you and the other new men all turn your heads toward the sound. That is the front. That is where you are going. And suddenly, every story you have heard, every warning you have ignored, feels very, very real. Chapter 3. Welcome to the trenches. You arrive at the reserve trenches after dark. This is deliberate. Movement during daylight brings sniper fire and artillery strikes. So you march in darkness, following the man in front of you, trying not to trip over the uneven ground. The rumble of artillery is constant now. Not distant thunder anymore. This is close. Close enough that you can feel it in your chest when the big guns fire. Your first sight of the trench system is nothing like the training trenches back in England. Those were neat, clean, clearly marked with signs. These are a labyrinth of mud and sandbags and wooden boards stretched across puddles that might be 6 inches deep or might go down to your waist. You cannot tell in the dark. An officer directs your unit to a section of the support trench. This is not even the front line. This is several hundred yards back, relatively safe, a place where soldiers rest between rotations. But even here, even in the safe zone, you can hear machine gun fire chattering in the distance and the occasional crack of a rifle shot. The trench is narrow, maybe 4 feet wide. The walls are supported by sandbags stacked higher than your head. The floor is duckboards, wooden planks laid across the mud to give you something solid to walk on. Except the duckboards are broken in places, covered in mud in others, and slick with something you would rather not identify. You are assigned a dugout. This is a hole carved into the side of the trench wall, maybe 6 feet deep and 4 feet high. You share it with 3 other men. There is a piece of canvas stretched across the opening to keep out some of the rain. The floor is mud. The ceiling drips. This is where you will sleep. This is your home for the next week. Let us be clear. This is not like camping. This is not an adventure. This is living in a ditch, and that ditch is actively trying to kill you through disease, exhaustion, and the constant stress of knowing that at any moment, a shell could land directly on top of you and scatter your body across 50 yards of no man's land. The smell hits you harder than you expected. It is not just mud and sweat. It is latrines that are nothing more than buckets dumped into a sump pit. It is unwashed bodies because there is no way to bathe. It is rotting food. It is the sweet, sick smell of corpses that have not been recovered from no man's land, sometimes just yards away from where you are standing. And underneath it all, the smell of wet earth and decay. You try to sleep that first night, but sleep does not come. The noise never stops. Artillery fire, some of it outgoing from British guns behind you, some of it incoming from German positions ahead. Flares shoot up into the sky every few minutes, turning night into harsh white daylight for a few seconds before fading back to darkness. Machine guns chatter, rifles crack, and underneath it all, men are coughing, talking in low voices, moving around in the darkness. Your dugout floods during the night, not with water, with mud. Thick, brown, sticky mud that seeps through every gap in the walls and pools on the floor. By morning, everything you own is covered in it. Your blanket, your pack, your spare uniform. The mud gets everywhere. In your hair, under your fingernails, in your ears. You will never be clean again. Morning stand-to happens an hour before dawn. Everyone in the trench on the fire step, rifle ready, staring out into no man's land in case the Germans decide to attack at first light. This is when most attacks happen, so everyone is awake, everyone is alert, everyone is terrified. You stand there in the pre-dawn darkness, your hands shaking from cold and fear and exhaustion, and you wonder what you have gotten yourself into. Nothing happens. The sun comes up. The Germans do not attack. You are stood down and told to get some breakfast. Breakfast is tea that tastes like metal and biscuits so hard you could use them as building materials. You dip the biscuits in the tea to soften them enough to chew. Some of the older soldiers have tricks for making the food more bearable, but you have not learned them yet. And then an officer appears and tells you that tomorrow, your unit is rotating to the front line. 24 hours in the reserve trench just to get you acclimatized. Then you go forward into the real war. You have 1 day to prepare yourself. 1 day to come to terms with what is about to happen. It is not enough time. It will never be enough time. Chapter 4. The front line. You move up to the front line trench through a communication trench. This is a narrow passage that zigzags back and forth, designed so that if the enemy gets a machine gun set up, they cannot just fire straight down the length and kill everyone. You walk in single file, your kit banging against the walls, your boots squelching in the mud. The front line trench is different from the support trench. It feels more exposed, even though the walls are just as high. Maybe it is because you know that on the other side of those sandbags, a few hundred yards away, German soldiers are sitting in their own trenches, and between you and them is an absolute wasteland called no man's land. You are shown to your position on the fire step. This is a ledge built into the front wall of the trench, just high enough that you can stand on it and look over the parapet. You are given a section to watch. Your job is simple. Look for movement. If you see Germans coming, you shoot. If you see a lot of Germans coming, you yell for help and then you shoot. The first time you look over the parapet, your heart is pounding so hard you can feel it in your throat. You expect to see enemy soldiers charging toward you. You expect to see something dramatic. But no man's land is empty. Just mud and shell craters and tangles of barbed wire and wooden posts sticking up at odd angles. And scattered among all of that, bodies. Some in British uniforms. Some in German. Some you cannot identify because they have been there so long that the rats and the weather have done their work. There is a body hanging on the barbed wire directly in front of your position. A British soldier, you think, though it is hard to tell. He has been there for weeks, maybe months. Every time a flare goes up, you can see him, arms stretched out, head tilted back like he is looking at the sky. The other soldiers in your section have stopped noticing him. But you cannot stop looking. Snipers are a constant threat. If you are careless, if you stick your head up for too long, if you do not keep low, someone a quarter mile away will put a bullet through your skull before you even hear the shot. The veterans move carefully, always crouching, never silhouetting themselves against the sky. You try to copy them, but your legs ache from being bent all the time. Rats are everywhere. Not normal rats. These are trench rats, huge from feeding on corpses and discarded rations. They are bold. They will run across your feet. They will steal food from your pack while you sleep. They will bite if you corner them. You see one that is easily the size of a small cat, and when you point it out to the man next to you, he just shrugs and says you get used to them. You do not believe him. The day passes in a strange combination of boredom and terror. Nothing happens for hours. You just stand there watching no man's land, trying not to fall asleep. And then suddenly, without warning, a shell lands 50 yards to your left. The explosion is deafening. Dirt and debris rain down. Someone is screaming. An officer is shouting for a stretcher bearer. And then, just as suddenly, it is over. Silence again. Or not silence, because the guns never stop, but at least no shells are landing directly on you. You discover that you have wet yourself. The fear just opened you up, and now your trousers are soaked and cold against your legs. You are humiliated. You are sure everyone can tell. But when you look around, you see that one of the other new soldiers is in the same state. And none of the veterans are saying anything. This is normal. Fear does this to you. Night in the front line trench is somehow worse than day. The darkness is absolute when the flares are not up. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. Every sound is magnified. A rat moving sounds like a person crawling. The wind sounds like whispers. Your imagination creates threats everywhere. German soldiers could be 10 feet away and you would not know until they were on top of you. You are given sentry duty. 2 hours on, 4 hours off. During your watch, you are supposed to stay alert, watching no man's land for any signs of a raid or an attack. But your eyes play tricks on you. That shell crater moves. That piece of wire looks like a person. You want to call out to warn the others, but you are terrified of being wrong, of being mocked for seeing things that are not there. And then a flare goes up, fired from somewhere behind you. It arcs over no man's land and bursts into brilliant white light. For a few seconds, everything is visible. The mud, the wire, the bodies. And there, at the edge of the light, movement. Your breath stops. You bring your rifle up. Your finger finds the trigger. And then the flare dies, plunging everything back into darkness. And you are not sure if you really saw something or if your mind invented it. You do not fire. You are too scared to fire. What if you are wrong? What if you just imagined it? The night drags on. Nothing happens. Or maybe something did happen and you just did not see it. You will never know. This is life in the trenches. Constant uncertainty. constant fear, and very occasionally moments of absolute terror when the shells start falling and you realize that your life is completely out of your control. Chapter 5: The Food. Let us talk about what you are eating. Because food in the trenches is not nutrition. It is survival fuel, and not very good survival fuel at that. The British Army rations are designed to keep you alive, not to make you happy. And honestly, they barely manage the first part. Your basic daily ration consists of the following: 1 pound of bread or biscuits, 1 pound of meat, though what kind of meat changes based on what the supply chain can deliver, 8 ounces of vegetables, 2 ounces of bacon, 3 ounces of cheese, 4 ounces of jam, and tea. Always tea. The British Army runs on tea. But here is the thing nobody tells you. Those rations almost never arrive intact. The supply chain from the coast to the front line is a nightmare of mud, shell craters, and German artillery fire. So by the time food reaches your trench, it is either spoiled, destroyed, or mysteriously reduced in quantity because someone along the line decided they needed it more than you do. The bread you get is rarely fresh. Mostly it is hardtack, which is essentially a brick of flour and water baked until it is harder than wood. You cannot bite into hardtack. Your teeth will break. You have to soak it in tea or water for 15 or 20 minutes until it softens enough to chew. And even then, it tastes like cardboard mixed with disappointment. The meat comes in cans. Bully beef, they call it. Corned beef. It is greasy, salty, and comes out of the can in a gelatinous mass that jiggles when you touch it. Sometimes there are chunks of fat mixed in that you have to pick out. Sometimes there are things in the can that you cannot identify and would rather not think about. You eat it anyway because the alternative is starving. Vegetables are usually turnips or potatoes, boiled until they have lost all flavor and most of their nutritional value. Sometimes you get peas. Sometimes you get carrots. Always they are mushy, always they are cold by the time they reach you, and always they taste like the metal container they were cooked in. The bacon is rarely what you would call bacon. It is more like fatty strips of meat that might have come from a pig at some point in their history. You fry it over a small fire when you can make one, but fires attract attention, so usually you eat it cold, the grease congealing on your fingers. Cheese is hard and waxy. The jam is usually plum and apple, and it is so sweet it makes your teeth hurt. But it is the only thing that tastes good, so you ration it carefully, spreading it thin on your hardtack to make it last. And then there is the tea. The British Army believes that tea can solve any problem. Cold? Have some tea. Scared? Have some tea. Covered in mud and contemplating the meaninglessness of existence? Tea will fix it. The tea itself is strong enough to strip paint. It is brewed in huge containers and distributed in whatever cup or canteen you have. Sugar and condensed milk make it drinkable. Barely. But the worst part is not the quality of the food. It is the conditions you eat it in. You are sitting in a trench, in the mud, surrounded by rats who are very interested in your meal. There is nowhere clean to set your food down. Your hands are filthy. The spoon you eat with has not been properly washed in weeks. Every bite comes with a side of dirt. Sometimes the food is still in the can and you eat it with your fingers because utensils got lost somewhere between the supply depot and the front line. Sometimes you are so hungry you do not even taste what you are eating. You just shovel it into your mouth as fast as possible because if a shell lands nearby, you want to at least have eaten first. Water for cooking comes from wherever you can find it. Sometimes it is from water carts that are brought up at night. Sometimes it is from shell craters, and yes, you know there might be a dead body in that crater, but you are thirsty and you convince yourself that boiling will kill anything dangerous. Probably does not. You probably get sick. But what choice do you have? Cooking happens when you can make a small fire without attracting sniper or artillery attention. You use bits of wood scavenged from destroyed buildings or trees. You use pieces of the duckboards when you think no one is looking. You use anything that will burn. The fire is tiny, barely enough to heat water for tea, certainly not enough to actually cook anything properly. Some soldiers get care packages from home, tins of cake, chocolate, cigarettes. These are treasures beyond measure. If your family sends you a package and it actually makes it to the front line without being looted, you become the most popular man in your section. You share it out carefully, making it last, savoring every bite of something that tastes like home. But most of the time, you just eat your rations and try not to think about food. Thinking about food makes it worse. Remembering Sunday dinners at home, roast beef and Yorkshire pudding and fresh bread and vegetables from the garden, that is torture. So you push those thoughts away and focus on the hardtack in your hand and tell yourself that you are lucky to have even this much. Chapter 6. The water problem. Water is life. You know this now in a way you never understood back home. Because in the trenches, clean water is rarer than gold and more valuable than ammunition. Your body needs water to survive. And the front is doing everything possible to make sure you do not get enough. Your daily water ration is supposed to be 1 gallon per man. That is for drinking, cooking, and washing. 1 gallon. Think about how much water you use in a day back in the modern world. Think about your morning shower. Think about washing your hands. Think about every glass of water you drink. Now imagine trying to survive on 1 gallon. And that is assuming you actually get your full ration. Most days you do not. The water carts that are supposed to deliver fresh water to the trenches are priority targets for German artillery. The Germans know that without water, you die faster than without food. So they shell the water points. They shell the carts. They shell the working parties trying to fill containers. The water comes in metal containers called petrol cans. Yes, the same containers used for gasoline. They try to clean them out first, but the taste of fuel never quite goes away. Your drinking water tastes like petrol. Your tea tastes like petrol. Everything tastes like petrol. You get used to it because you have no choice. In the winter, water freezes. Your water bottle becomes a solid block of ice. You cannot drink it. You cannot pour it. You have to thaw it by keeping the bottle inside your uniform, pressed against your body, for hours. And while you are doing that, you are not drinking, and dehydration creeps up on you slowly. In the summer, water goes bad. The metal containers get hot in the sun. Bacteria multiply. The water starts to smell. It turns green sometimes. You drink it anyway because the alternative is dying of thirst. You get sick. Your stomach cramps. You spend hours in the latrines. But you keep drinking because your body needs water. Shell craters fill with water when it rains. And it rains constantly. You look at those craters and you see water and your thirst makes you think about drinking it. Some men do. They are desperate enough. They know there might be bodies in that water. They know it is probably contaminated with mud and blood and chemicals from the shells. They drink it anyway. Some of them get dysentery. Some of them get cholera. Some of them die. Washing is a fantasy. You are supposed to keep yourself clean to prevent disease. But how do you wash when you have barely enough water to drink? You do not. You stay dirty. For weeks. For months. Your skin itches. Your scalp is covered in lice eggs. Your feet are rotting in your boots. But there is no water to spare for washing. Sometimes, if you are very lucky, you get rotated back to a rest area where there are bathing facilities. These are usually just canvas tents with barrels of cold water and a hose. You strip naked in front of 50 other men. You stand under the freezing water for maybe 2 minutes. You scrub as fast as you can with a small piece of soap. And it is the best feeling in the world. For those 2 minutes, you feel human again. But those moments are rare. Most of the time, you make do with a quick wipe down using a damp cloth. You clean the parts of your body that you can reach without fully undressing. You change your socks if you have dry ones, which you usually do not. You tell yourself you will get a proper bath soon. You know you are lying. Drinking from your water bottle is a ritual. You take small sips trying to make it last. You know when the next ration will come, and you know you need to stretch what you have until then. But you are so thirsty. Your mouth is dry. Your lips are cracked. Your tongue feels like leather. So you take another sip. And another. And then your bottle is empty and you are still thirsty and the next water ration is not for 8 more hours. Tea helps with the water problem. Boiling water kills most of the dangerous bacteria. So the army pushes tea constantly. Hot tea in the morning. Tea with meals. Tea breaks during the day. Tea at night. You drink so much tea that you can feel it sloshing around in your stomach. But at least it is safer than drinking unboiled water. The lack of water affects everything. Your urine turns dark. Your skin becomes dry and flaky. Your eyes feel gritty. You get headaches that never quite go away. Your body is in a constant state of mild dehydration, and it makes everything harder. Thinking is harder. Moving is harder. Staying alert is harder. And when it rains, which it does constantly, you are surrounded by water. It pools in the bottom of the trench. It drips from the sandbags. It runs down your neck and soaks your uniform. But you cannot drink it. It is contaminated with mud and filth and waste. So you stand in water up to your ankles, dying of thirst, unable to drink the water you are standing in. Welcome to the trenches. Chapter 7. The mud. If there is one thing that defines life in the trenches more than anything else, it is the mud. Not dirt, not soil, mud. Thick, sticky, clinging mud that gets into everything and destroys everything and eventually breaks your spirit in ways the enemy never could. The mud in Flanders and northern France is special. It is not like mud you have seen anywhere else. This is clay-based soil that has been churned by millions of shells, soaked by constant rain, mixed with blood and chemicals and organic matter, and compressed into a substance that is somewhere between liquid and solid. It is like quicksand, but worse because quicksand does not smell like death. The mud is everywhere. In the bottom of the trench, 6 inches deep on a good day, 2 feet deep after rain. On the walls, on the duckboards, on your uniform, on your rifle, in your hair, under your fingernails, in your mouth. You breathe mud. You eat mud. You dream about mud. Walking through the trench is exhausting. Every step requires effort. You lift your boot and the mud does not want to let go. It sucks at your boot, making an obscene slurping sound. Sometimes the boot comes off and you have to reach down into the freezing mud with your bare hand to fish it out. Sometimes you cannot find it. Sometimes men lose their boots in the mud and have to walk barefoot until new ones arrive. The mud is heavy. When it coats your uniform, it adds pounds of weight. Your greatcoat becomes twice as heavy when soaked with muddy water. Your trousers stiffen with dried mud during the day, then turn soft and heavy again when it rains. You are carrying the weight of the mud on top of the weight of your equipment, and it never stops. Sleeping in the mud is normal. Your dugout has a floor of mud. Your blanket gets covered in mud. You lie down at night and the mud seeps through everything, cold and wet against your skin. You wake up shivering, covered in mud, and for a moment you cannot remember where you are or why you are here. The mud hides danger. Shell holes filled with liquid mud look like solid ground until you step on them. Men have drowned in mud, not in water, in mud. They step wrong, sink up to their waist, and the more they struggle, the deeper they go. It takes 2 or 3 men to pull someone out of a deep mud hole, and sometimes even that is not enough. Going over the top means crossing no man's land, which is nothing but shell craters filled with mud. You try to run, but you cannot run in mud. You can only stumble and fall and drag yourself forward. The mud slows everyone down. British, German, it does not matter. Everyone is equally helpless in the mud. Your rifle gets clogged with mud. The bolt action becomes stiff. The barrel fills with mud if you are not careful. Cleaning your rifle is a daily task, and it is harder than it sounds when you do not have clean water or clean rags or anywhere clean to work. You do your best, but the mud always wins. Trench foot is caused by the mud. Your feet stay wet for days, sometimes weeks. The skin becomes soft and white. Then it starts to rot. The smell is horrible. The pain is worse. If you catch it early, if you can dry your feet and change your socks, you might be okay. But most men do not catch it early. Most men end up with infections. Some lose toes, some lose feet, and it all starts with mud. The mud preserves bodies. When a man dies in no man's land and cannot be recovered, the mud slowly swallows him. Sometimes you see a hand sticking up out of the mud, fingers curled like it is reaching for help. Sometimes you see a face, eyes closed, mouth open, slowly sinking into the earth. The mud takes them all eventually. Rain makes everything worse, and it rains constantly. You have never seen rain like this. Not showers, not storms, just endless, relentless rain that turns the trench into a river and the mud into soup. The walls collapse. The duckboards float away. You bail water with your helmet, throwing it over the parapet, but for every gallon you remove, 2 more flow in. The mud gets into your food. You try to keep it covered, but mud finds a way. You eat your rations and crunch on grit between your teeth. The tea has flecks of mud floating in it. The biscuits have mud ground into every crack. You stop noticing after a while. Mud is just another ingredient. At night, you hear the mud moving. It sounds like whispers, like something is alive down there in the darkness. Men swear they have seen things moving in the mud, things that are not rats or soldiers. You tell yourself it is just your imagination. But the mud does strange things to your mind when you stare at it long enough. And here is the worst part about the mud. It never ends. You cannot escape it. Even when you get rotated back to rest areas, even when you get clean clothes, even when you wash yourself, the mud is still there. Under your nails, in the creases of your skin, in your memory, the mud becomes part of you, and you realize with growing horror that you will never be truly clean again. Chapter 8. The rats and the lice. You are never alone in the trenches. Besides the thousands of other soldiers, you have 2 constant companions that you never asked for and cannot get rid of. Rats and lice. They are with you every moment of every day, and they are winning the war against your sanity. Let us start with the rats. These are not the small rats you might see in a barn or a city alley back home. These are monsters. Trench rats grow to the size of cats. They feast on corpses, on food stores, on anything they can find. They are fat and bold and absolutely unafraid of humans. You see your first trench rat on your second day in the front line. It is the size of a small dog, running along the parapet in broad daylight. You point it out to the man next to you, expecting him to be shocked. He just laughs and tells you to wait until you see the really big ones. You think he is joking. He is not joking. The rats come out at night. Hundreds of them. You can hear them moving in the darkness, their claws scratching on the duckboards, their teeth gnawing on something you would rather not identify. They run across your body while you sleep. You wake up with a rat on your chest, its whiskers tickling your face, its small black eyes reflecting the dim light. You scream and swat at it, and it just scurries away, completely unbothered. They steal food. You learn very quickly to never leave rations unattended. If you set down a piece of cheese or bread, even for a second, a rat will grab it and vanish into the darkness. They are faster than you. They are smarter than you. And they are hungry all the time. The rats bite. Not often, but it happens. A man in your section wakes up one morning with blood on his hand. A rat bit him during the night, right through his glove. The bite gets infected. He gets sent to the field hospital. You hear later that he lost 2 fingers, all because of a rat bite. Some men try to kill the rats. They use bayonets, clubs, poison, anything they can think of. It does not matter. For every rat you kill, 10 more appear. The trenches are perfect rat habitat. Food everywhere, shelter everywhere, and no natural predators except humans who are too tired and too stressed to mount an effective extermination campaign. The rats feed on the dead. This is the part that breaks something in you. You know there are bodies in no man's land that cannot be recovered. You can see them from your position, and at night you can see the rats swarming over them, feeding. The sound carries across the darkness. Wet tearing sounds. Gnawing. It is the worst sound you have ever heard, and you cannot make it stop. And then there are the lice. If the rats are the visible enemy, the lice are the invisible one. Lice are everywhere. In your uniform, in your hair, in the seams of your clothes. Tiny parasites that feed on your blood and breed faster than you can kill them. You feel them moving on your skin. Constant itching that never stops. You scratch until you bleed, but the itching does not go away. You learn to recognize the sensation of a louse crawling on your scalp. You grab it between your fingernails and crush it. You hear a tiny pop. You wipe the blood on your trousers. 5 minutes later, you feel another one. Checking for lice becomes part of your daily routine. You take off your shirt, even in the freezing cold, and examine the seams. This is where they lay their eggs. Tiny white dots clinging to the fabric. You run your fingernail along the seam, crushing the eggs, killing the larvae. You kill 100. Tomorrow there will be 200 more. Some men burn the lice out. They take a lit candle and run it carefully along the seams of their uniform. You can hear the lice popping in the heat. It works, sort of, for a few hours. But the lice always come back. You get them from the man sleeping next to you. You get them from the blankets. You get them from the dugout walls. There is no escape. The itching drives men mad. You see soldiers scratching themselves raw, clawing at their skin until they bleed, convinced that if they scratch hard enough they can get rid of the lice. They cannot. The lice are winning. The lice will always win. Lice spread disease. Trench fever is transmitted by lice. The symptoms start with a fever and aching muscles. Then comes the headache. Then the dizziness. Men go down with trench fever and do not come back for weeks. Some never come back. And it all starts with a tiny insect you cannot even see properly without squinting. You learn to accept the lice, not because you want to, but because fighting them takes energy you do not have. So you scratch when you itch. You crush them when you can. But mostly you just try to ignore the constant sensation of tiny legs walking across your skin. At night, lying in your dugout, you can feel both the rats and the lice. Rats running past your head, lice crawling in your hair, and you lie there, too tired to care, too exhausted to fight, just accepting that this is your life now. You share your body with parasites. You share your home with scavengers. And there is nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you fantasize about being clean, really clean, a hot bath, clean clothes, a bed without lice. But those fantasies hurt more than they help. So you push them away and focus on surviving today. Tomorrow you can worry about tomorrow. Right now, you just need to make it through the next hour without losing your mind to the itching. Chapter 9. The cold and the weather. Winter in the trenches is a special kind of hell. You thought the mud was bad. You thought the rats were bad. But the cold is something else entirely. The cold is an enemy that attacks you constantly, relentlessly, without mercy, and there is no way to fight back. You are standing sentry duty. It is 3 in the morning. The temperature is below freezing. You are wearing everything you own. Your uniform, your greatcoat, a scarf your mother knitted for you, gloves that have holes in them, and you are still cold. So cold that your teeth chatter. So cold that your fingers have gone numb. So cold that you cannot remember what being warm feels like. The uniform you are wearing was not designed for winter in northern France. The wool is thin. The coat is not waterproof. There is no insulation. You are basically wearing the same outfit you would wear on a chilly autumn day back in England, except now you are standing in a frozen trench in sub-zero temperatures. Your feet are the worst. They are wet. They are cold. They have been wet and cold for so long that you cannot feel your toes anymore. You stomp your feet trying to get circulation going, but the heavy boots make it hard to move. And the stomping attracts attention from the Germans, who do not appreciate loud noises in no man's land. Frost forms on everything. Your rifle is covered in frost. The sandbags are covered in frost. Your mustache, if you are old enough to have one, turns white with frozen breath. You touch your face and your fingers stick to your skin for a second before you pull them away. Sleep is impossible when you are this cold. You lie in your dugout, wrapped in a single thin blanket, and shiver so hard your muscles ache. You curl into a ball trying to preserve body heat, but it does not help. The cold seeps in through the ground, through the walls, through the canvas overhead. There is no warmth anywhere. Some men try to make fires. Small fires using scraps of wood or bits of coal. But fires are risky. The smoke gives away your position. The light attracts snipers. The officers say no fires. But when you are cold enough, when your body is shutting down from hypothermia, you take the risk. You build a tiny fire in the bottom of the trench, huddle around it with 3 other men, and pray that no one notices. The wind makes everything worse. It howls across no man's land, bringing sleet and snow and temperatures that drop even further. You have no shelter from the wind. The trench walls do not protect you. The wind just funnels down the length of the trench, cutting through your uniform like it is made of paper. Your hands stop working when they get too cold. You try to load your rifle and your fingers will not bend. You drop the ammunition. You fumble with the bolt. You realize that if the Germans attack right now, you could not defend yourself because your hands are too frozen to operate your weapon. Hot food helps. When you can get it, which is not often. The field kitchens are behind the lines, and by the time the food carriers bring hot stew to the front line, it is lukewarm at best. But even lukewarm stew is better than cold biscuits. You cup your hands around the metal container, absorbing every bit of heat you can, and drink the stew as fast as possible before it goes cold. Frostbite is a constant threat. You check your fingers and toes every few hours, looking for the white patches that signal the start of frostbite. If you catch it early, if you warm the affected area slowly, you might save the limb. But if you do not catch it, if you are too cold and too tired to notice, you wake up one morning and your fingers are black and dead and the medic is talking about amputation. Snow is beautiful from a distance. From up close, in the trenches, it is a nightmare. It fills the trench, covers the duckboards. It makes everything slippery. You fall. You land in the mud, which is now frozen mud covered by snow. You get up, covered in ice and mud and snow, and you keep going because stopping means dying. The wind chill is brutal. The actual temperature might be -5, but with the wind, it feels like -20. You have no way to measure it. You just know that exposed skin freezes in minutes. Your ears, your nose, your cheeks. If you do not cover them, if you are not careful, you will get frostbite on your face. At night, men die from the cold. Not from enemy action. From hypothermia. They go to sleep and their body temperature drops and they just do not wake up. In the morning, you find them frozen solid, curled in their dugout, dead. The sergeants record it as exposure. The body gets carried to the rear, another casualty of the weather. And then, just when you think you cannot take the cold anymore, spring comes. The temperature rises. The snow melts. The trenches flood with meltwater. The mud returns. And you realize that the cold was bad. But the mud might actually be worse. There is no winning in the trenches. There is only surviving one season at a time until the war ends or you die. Whichever comes first. Chapter 10. The gas. You are on sentry duty when someone yells, "Gas! Gas! Gas!" And everything becomes chaos. You know what to do. You have been trained. You have practiced. But knowing and doing are two different things when panic sets in and you have maybe 15 seconds before the gas reaches you. Your gas mask is in a bag on your chest. You rip open the bag with trembling fingers. The mask is a rubber hood with 2 glass eyepieces and a filter canister that hangs down in front like a snout. You shove it over your head, pulling it down over your face, making sure the seal is tight around your neck. The eyepieces fog up instantly. Your breathing is loud and raspy through the filter. Around you, men are doing the same thing. Some are faster. Some are slower. One man dropped his mask in the mud and is trying to wipe it clean before putting it on. An officer is screaming at him to hurry. You can see the gas rolling toward your position. It is a yellow-green cloud, heavier than air, flowing along the ground like liquid. This is chlorine gas. The Germans started using it in 1915, and now both sides use it regularly. Chlorine is not the worst gas you will face, but it is bad enough. It attacks your lungs, turning the moisture in your airways into hydrochloric acid. If you breathe it, you drown. Not in water, in the fluid from your own lungs. The gas reaches your trench. You press yourself against the wall, trying to stay low, because the gas sinks. Through the foggy eyepieces of your mask, you can see the cloud filling the trench, turning everything into a yellow-green haze. You can hear men coughing. Someone did not get their mask on in time. Breathing through the gas mask is hard work. The filter forces you to suck air through layers of cotton and chemicals. Your lungs have to work harder for every breath. Your chest aches. You start to feel dizzy from the effort. But you keep breathing, keep pulling air through that filter because the alternative is death. The gas stays in the trench for what feels like hours, but is probably only 15 or 20 minutes. You cannot do anything except wait. You cannot fight. You cannot move. You just stand there, breathing through your mask, praying that the seal is good and the filter is working. When the all-clear is finally given, you pull off your mask. Your face is covered in sweat. Your hair is soaked. The rubber has left red marks on your skin that will last for hours. You gulp fresh air, and it is the best thing you have ever tasted. Around you, other men are doing the same. But one man is not taking off his mask. He is on the ground, convulsing. He did not get his mask on fast enough. He breathed the gas. The medics carry him away. You hear later that he died that night, coughing up bloody foam, drowning in his own fluids. He was 18 years old. He had been at the front for 2 weeks. The gas does not care how old you are or how long you have been here. The gas kills everyone equally. Chlorine is bad. Phosgene is worse. Phosgene is a colorless gas that smells like freshly cut hay. It is heavier than chlorine, and it does its damage slowly. You might breathe it and feel fine for hours. Then, 12 or 18 or 24 hours later, your lungs fill with fluid and you drown. There is no cure. There is no treatment. You just die. Mustard gas is the worst. Mustard gas does not kill you quickly. It burns you, your skin, your eyes, your lungs. Everywhere the gas touches, it causes blisters. Chemical burns that are agonizing. Men who get hit with mustard gas spend weeks in the hospital, blind, covered in burns, screaming in pain. Some of them recover. Most do not. The gas mask becomes part of your identity. You carry it everywhere. You sleep with it next to your head. You practice putting it on in the dark until you can do it in 5 seconds. Because 5 seconds might be all you have. But the gas mask cannot protect you from everything. Mustard gas can soak through your uniform, can contaminate the ground. You walk through an area that was gassed yesterday, and your boots pick up residual mustard gas, and 12 hours later you have blisters on your feet. Gas attacks happen without warning. The Germans fire gas shells that explode and release their payload. Or they open canisters in their trenches and let the wind carry the gas toward you. You cannot see it coming until it is too late. You rely on the wind direction and the sentries and sheer luck. After a gas attack, the trench smells wrong. The gas lingers in pockets, in dugouts, in shell holes. You think the air is clear, you take off your mask to breathe easier, and suddenly you are coughing and your eyes are streaming tears. You slam the mask back on, but the damage is done. You just inhaled poison. Living under the constant threat of gas is exhausting. You cannot relax, ever, because at any moment, someone might yell, "Gas!" and you will have seconds to react. Sleep becomes shallow and fitful. You wake up at the slightest noise, reaching for your mask. You have nightmares about gas clouds rolling over you while your mask is lost or broken. And here is the cruelest part. The gas mask works. Usually, but not always. Sometimes the filter is old. Sometimes the seal is not perfect. Sometimes you breathe too hard and overwhelm the filter's capacity. And when that happens, when poison gas gets past your mask and into your lungs, you realize that all your preparation and all your practice meant nothing. You are going to die anyway, slowly and painfully, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. Chapter 11. The shells. The shelling starts at dawn. Not a few shells. Not a barrage. This is a hurricane of artillery fire that turns the world into noise and chaos and terror. You are crouched in your dugout, hands over your ears, mouth open to equalize the pressure, and you are absolutely certain that the next shell has your name on it. Artillery kills more men in World War I than any other weapon. Not rifles. Not machine guns. Not gas. Artillery. Big guns firing shells from miles away. Shells that you cannot see coming. Shells that land without warning and destroy everything within their blast radius. The shells come in different sizes. The small ones are 77 millimeter, fired by German field guns. They make a sharp crack when they explode. The medium ones are 105 millimeter. They make the ground shake. The big ones are 150 millimeter or larger. These are the ones that collapse trenches, bury men alive, and leave craters deep enough to hide a house. You learn to identify shells by sound. The German 77 millimeter has a distinctive whine as it comes in. The British 18-pounder makes a different noise. The really big shells, the ones fired by railway guns or naval guns adapted for land use, you hear those coming from far away. A distant rumble that gets louder and louder until the world explodes around you. The waiting is the worst part. You hear the shell coming. You know it is going to land somewhere nearby. You have 3 or 4 seconds to do absolutely nothing except hope that when it lands somewhere else. Anywhere else. Just not here. Not in your section of trench. Not on your dugout. Not on you. The explosion is impossible to describe. It is not just sound. It is pressure. It is a physical force that hits you in the chest and knocks the air from your lungs. The light is blinding. The heat is intense. And then the shockwave passes and you are still alive, gasping for breath, ears ringing so loud you cannot hear anything else. Shrapnel is everywhere. When a shell explodes, it does not just make noise. It sends metal fragments flying in every direction at incredible speed. Shrapnel can punch through sandbags. It can cut through human flesh like paper. Men die from shrapnel wounds more often than from the blast itself. You see a shell land 30 yards away. The explosion throws up a fountain of mud and debris. When it settles, there is a crater where 3 men were standing. You cannot see them anymore. They are just gone. Vaporized or buried or blown into pieces too small to identify. The sergeant tells you not to look. You look anyway. You cannot help yourself. Shell shock is real. You have seen men break under the constant bombardment. They start shaking and cannot stop. They curl into a ball and refuse to move. They cry and scream and beg to go home. The officers call it cowardice. The doctors call it neurasthenia. You call it what happens when the human mind cannot process any more horror. A barrage can last hours, sometimes days. The Germans pound your position with everything they have. Shells land every few seconds. The noise is continuous. You cannot think. You cannot speak. You cannot do anything except crouch in your dugout and pray that the walls hold. Your dugout is supposed to protect you from shelling. It is reinforced with timber and sandbags and sometimes corrugated metal. But a direct hit will collapse it. You will be buried alive, tons of earth and mud pressing down on you. No air, no light, no way out. Some men get dug out. Most do not. They suffocate slowly in the darkness. And when the rescue parties finally reach them days later, they are just bodies to be recorded and buried. The smell after a bombardment is unique. Cordite from the explosives, turned earth, blood, death. It hangs in the air for hours. You can taste it on your tongue. It makes you gag, but you force yourself not to vomit because vomiting when you might need to run is a bad idea. Sometimes shells do not explode. They bury themselves in the mud and sit there, live and dangerous. You walk past an unexploded shell every day on your way to the latrines. It is sticking out of the trench wall, nose buried in the mud, tail fins visible. Everyone knows it is there. Everyone is careful not to touch it. One day it might explode, or it might sit there for the next 100 years. Nobody knows. The artillery wears you down in ways you did not expect. It is not just the fear of dying. It is the constant noise, the constant vibration, the earth shaking under your feet hour after hour, day after day, until you cannot remember what silence feels like. Your hearing is permanently damaged. You will have tinnitus for the rest of your life, assuming you survive long enough to have a rest of your life. At night, the shelling changes. The Germans fire harassment shells, random shots throughout the night to keep you from sleeping. You finally drift off, exhausted beyond measure, and then a shell lands somewhere in the trench system and you are awake again, heart pounding, wondering if this is the start of an attack or just more harassment. And then there are the moments of absolute terror, when the shelling stops, when everything goes quiet, because silence after a bombardment means one thing: infantry attack. The Germans have shelled your position to soften it up, to kill as many defenders as possible, to destroy your barbed wire and collapse your trenches. And now they are coming. You grab your rifle, check your ammunition, and prepare to kill or be killed. This is what all the shelling was leading to. And somehow the shelling was easier than what comes next. Chapter 12. The attack. The whistle blows. You climb the ladder and go over the top. This is it. This is what you have been trained for. This is what every moment of the last few months has been building toward. You are attacking the German trenches, and your life expectancy just dropped to minutes. No man's land stretches in front of you. Hundreds of yards of mud and shell craters and barbed wire and death. You can see the German trenches in the distance. Low mounds of earth that do not look like much but contain machine guns and rifles and men who want to kill you. The plan is simple. You advance in waves. When you reach the German wire, you cut through it with wire cutters. You jump into their trenches. You kill everyone you find. You hold the position until reinforcements arrive. Simple. Except nothing about this is simple. You start walking, not running. Walking. The officers told you to walk because running would break up the formation and cause chaos. So you walk across no man's land, carrying your rifle, trying to stay in line with the men on either side of you. It is the most unnatural thing you have ever done. The German machine guns open fire. You hear them before you see the effect. A chattering sound, almost rhythmic, punctuated by the crack of rifles. And then men start falling. Not everyone, just some. The man to your left drops without a sound. The man 3 positions to your right clutches his stomach and collapses. You keep walking. Your training is supposed to kick in. You are supposed to stay calm, follow orders, do your job. But your training did not prepare you for this. Nothing could prepare you for this. You are walking toward machine guns that are firing directly at you, and men are dying all around you, and you cannot run, you cannot hide, you just have to keep walking. A shell lands to your right. The explosion knocks you sideways. Your ears ring. You cannot hear anything except a high-pitched whine. You get up. You are not sure if you are hurt. You check yourself quickly. No blood, no pain, just ringing in your ears and dirt in your eyes. You keep walking. The German wire is ahead. You can see it now, thick tangles of barbed wire strung between wooden posts. The British artillery was supposed to destroy the wire. They did not. Maybe they missed. Maybe the shells were duds. It does not matter. The wire is still there, and you have to get through it. You reach the wire and realize you are alone. The men who were with you are dead or wounded or scattered. You have wire cutters on your belt. You pull them out with shaking hands. The wire is thick and rusty. You cut one strand, then another. Behind you, someone is screaming. You do not turn around. You keep cutting. A bullet hits the post next to your head. Splinters of wood spray your face. You drop flat into the mud, pressing yourself against the ground, making yourself as small as possible. Bullets crack overhead. You can hear them passing inches above you. You cannot move. If you move, you die. But you cannot stay here either. You are pinned down in front of the German wire, exposed, an easy target. You have to move. You have to do something. You take a breath, say a prayer you are not sure you believe in, and start crawling forward. Through the mud, under the wire, toward the German trench. You fall into a shell crater. It is half full of water and mud. You land face first and come up gasping, spitting mud, wiping your eyes. There are 3 other men in the crater. British soldiers. One is wounded, blood soaking through his uniform. The other 2 are just hiding, too scared to move. You recognize the fear in their eyes because you can feel it in yourself. A German grenade lands in the crater. You see it hit the water with a splash. You have 2 seconds. You grab it and throw it back. It explodes in mid-air, spraying shrapnel everywhere. Some of it hits you, small stings on your arm and face. You do not care. You are alive. For now. One of the men in the crater decides to make a run for it. He climbs out and starts running toward the German trench. A burst of machine gun fire cuts him down before he makes it 5 yards. He falls and does not move. The other men in the crater look at each other. Nobody says anything. There is nothing to say. You stay in the crater for what feels like hours but is probably only minutes. Bullets snap overhead. Shells explode around you. Men are screaming. Some are calling for their mothers. Some are calling for medics. Some are just screaming wordlessly, the sound of the human mind breaking. Eventually, an officer appears at the edge of the crater. He is covered in mud and blood, some of it his, some of it probably not. He tells you the attack has failed. Fall back to your own trenches. Try to survive the return trip. He disappears, moving to the next crater, giving the same orders. Getting back is harder than getting there. You have to cross the same ground. But now you are exhausted and wounded, and the Germans know you are retreating. You run. Actually run this time. The officers are not here to stop you. You run through the mud, past the bodies, past the wire, toward your own trench. You jump into the trench and land hard. Your ankle twists. Pain shoots up your leg. You do not care. You are back. You made it. You are alive. Around you, other men are stumbling back, some wounded, some in shock, all of them changed by what they just experienced. The sergeant is taking account. Your unit started with 40 men. 18 made it back. 22 dead or missing in no man's land. More than half your unit gone in less than an hour. And you gained nothing. The German trenches are still in German hands. The wire is still there. Everything is exactly the same as it was this morning, except now 22 families are going to get letters telling them their sons are dead. You sit in the bottom of the trench, shaking, not from cold, from reaction. Your body is processing what just happened, and it is shutting down. Someone hands you a cup of tea. You cannot hold it steady. The tea spills. You do not care. You just need to sit here for a moment and remember how to be human again. Chapter 13. The Wounded. The screaming starts just after dawn. Someone in no man's land is hit and cannot get back to the trenches. You can hear him calling for help, calling for his mother, calling for God. The sound is awful. It is the worst sound you have ever heard, and there is nothing you can do about it. Going out to rescue wounded men during the day is suicide. The German snipers watch no man's land constantly. Anyone who shows themselves gets shot. So the wounded have to wait until nightfall. If they survive that long, many do not. You volunteer for a stretcher party. This means going out into no man's land after dark to look for wounded men and bring them back. It is dangerous work. The Germans send up flares constantly, turning night into day for a few seconds at a time. If you are caught in the open when a flare goes up, you freeze and pray they do not see you. You crawl on your belly through the mud. Your partner is a few feet to your left, also crawling. You cannot talk. Sound carries at night. You navigate by memory and by following the sound of moaning. Somewhere out there, a wounded man is waiting. If you can find him before he bleeds out, you might save his life. A flare goes up. You freeze. The light is harsh and white, casting sharp shadows. You are in the middle of no man's land, completely exposed. You can see the German trenches clearly. You can see the wire. You can see shell craters and bodies and all the ugliness of war laid out in stark detail. And then the flare dies and you can move again. You find him in a shell crater. He has been here since morning. A bullet through his leg, just above the knee. The wound is bad. He has lost a lot of blood. He is delirious, calling for water, calling for his mother. You and your partner lift him onto the stretcher as gently as you can. He screams. You cannot help it. Moving him hurts, but leaving him here means death. Getting back is harder than coming out. The stretcher is heavy. The wounded man is dead weight. You stumble in the mud. You fall. You get up. Your partner falls. You help him up. Another flare goes up and you drop flat. The stretcher on top of you, the wounded man groaning. The flare dies. You get up. You keep moving. You make it back to your trench just before dawn. The medic takes the wounded man and you never see him again. You do not know if he survives. You do not ask. Asking means caring, and caring hurts too much. The aid station is in a dugout 50 yards behind the front line. This is where the medics work, patching up men well enough to send back to the line or stabilizing them for transport to the field hospital. The conditions are medieval. No proper lighting. No clean water. Bandages reused because there are not enough new ones. The medic does his best with what he has, but his best is not very good. Men die at the aid station. You sit outside, waiting for your turn to get a minor wound bandaged, and you hear someone inside screaming. Then the screaming stops. Then the medic comes out and tells someone to take the body. This happens multiple times a day. Every day. The worst wounds are abdominal. A bullet or shrapnel to the stomach or intestines. There is nothing the medics can do. No surgery available. No way to repair the damage. The wounded man lies on a stretcher and dies slowly, sometimes taking hours, sometimes days. Morphine helps with the pain. Sometimes. Not always. Head wounds are catastrophic. You see a man with half his skull missing. He is somehow still alive, breathing, even trying to talk. The medic just shakes his head. There is nothing to be done. The man will die. It is just a matter of time. You turn away because you cannot watch. Gas casualties crowd the aid station. Men coughing up bloody foam. Men with eyes swollen shut from mustard gas exposure. Men with burns covering their bodies. The medics do what they can, which is not much. Rinse the eyes. Apply ointment to the burns. Give morphine for the pain. And pray. Some men are beyond help. The medic performs triage, deciding who has a chance and who does not. The ones who do not get moved to a corner of the dugout and given morphine to ease their passing. You hate watching this, but someone has to do it. Resources are limited. Not everyone can be saved. The ambulance comes at night. It is a converted truck, no suspension, no heating. The wounded are loaded onto stretchers stacked 3 high. The ride to the field hospital is agony for them. Every bump in the road sends waves of pain through their bodies. Some men do not survive the journey. They die in the back of the ambulance, and the driver does not know until he reaches the hospital. You learn not to get attached to the wounded. You help them when you can. You carry stretchers when ordered, but you do not learn their names. You do not ask about their families, because caring about them means mourning them, and you cannot mourn everyone who dies. You would never stop mourning. And then there are the men who lose limbs, an arm blown off by shrapnel, a leg mangled beyond repair and amputated in the field. These men survive mostly. They get sent home. But you wonder if survival is a blessing or a curse. Going home with missing parts. Never whole again. Never the same. The screaming from no man's land continues through the next day. A different voice now. Someone else is wounded and cannot get back. You try not to listen. You try to focus on something else. But the sound gets inside your head and stays there. At night, when you try to sleep, you still hear it. The sound of men dying slowly, alone, beyond help. Chapter 14. The letters. You sit in your dugout with a pencil stub and a piece of paper that is already dirty from your hands. You are trying to write a letter home. This should be simple. You have done it dozens of times. But tonight, the words will not come. What do you tell them? Do you tell them the truth? That you are scared every moment of every day? That you have seen things no 16-year-old should see? That you wake up screaming from nightmares about drowning in mud? That you are not the boy who left home 6 months ago and you never will be again? No, you cannot tell them that. So you lie. You write that you are fine. The food is decent. The weather is not too bad. You are making friends. You are learning a lot. Everything is fine. Fine, fine, fine. The word appears 3 times in your letter because you cannot think of any other way to describe the indescribable. You ask about home. How is your sister? Is the dog still chasing the neighbor's cat? Did father fix the roof? These questions are a lifeline to normalcy. They remind you that somewhere, far away from this hell, life continues. People still worry about ordinary things. The roof, the dog, the everyday concerns of people who are not trying to survive a war. Mail call is the best part of the week. When letters arrive from home, when you hear your name called and you are handed an envelope, it is like receiving proof that the other world still exists. You tear open the envelope carefully, trying not to damage the contents. The paper smells like home. Your mother's perfume. Pipe tobacco from your father's study. Real smells from a real place that is not mud and death. Your sister sent you a drawing. It is a picture of the house, done in colored pencils. The proportions are wrong and the perspective is off, but it is the most beautiful thing you have seen in months. You fold it carefully and put it in your pocket next to the ribbon. These small pieces of home are the only things keeping you sane. Your mother's letters are full of news. Mrs. Henderson's son came home on leave. The church held a fundraiser. The garden is doing well this year. She does not mention the casualty lists in the newspapers. She does not mention the other boys from your village who have not come home. She writes about life continuing as if the war is happening somewhere else, to someone else. You know she is trying to protect you from worry, but it has the opposite effect. Her letters make you feel disconnected, like you are reading about strangers. The world she describes is so far from your reality that you cannot reconcile the two. You are living in a nightmare and she is telling you about the garden. Some men never get letters. No family to write to them. No friends who care enough. You watch them during mail call, trying to pretend they do not care, trying to act like it does not matter. But you can see the hurt in their eyes. Being forgotten is worse than being in danger. You hear about men who get Dear John letters. Letters from girlfriends or fiancés breaking things off. The distance is too much. They have met someone else. They cannot wait anymore. You see a man get one of these letters. He reads it once, folds it carefully, puts it in his pocket and goes on sentry duty. 2 hours later, he stands up in full view of the German trenches. A sniper shoots him through the head. The officers call it an accident. Everyone knows it was not. Writing letters to the families of dead men is the worst duty. The officer calls you in and tells you to write to Private Smith's mother. Tell her he died bravely. Tell her he did not suffer. Tell her he is a hero. You sit down with the paper and the pencil and you try to write these lies. But you were there when Smith died. You saw him get hit by shrapnel. You heard him screaming for 3 hours before he died. There was nothing brave about it. There was nothing heroic. It was just awful. But you write the letter anyway. You tell his mother what she needs to hear. He was brave. He died quickly. He did not suffer. You sign your name and you hate yourself a little bit for lying. But what else can you do? Tell her the truth? That her son died in agony in a muddy hole with rats already starting to gather? Some truths are too cruel to share. The letters you receive start to change as time goes on. Your mother asks fewer questions about your well-being. Maybe she has learned not to expect honest answers. Maybe she does not want to know. Your father's letters become shorter, more formal. Your sister stops sending drawings. The connection to home is fraying one letter at a time. You write less often now, not because you do not want to, but because you have nothing to say that you can actually put on paper. The censors read every letter. You cannot mention specific locations. You cannot mention casualties. You cannot mention anything that might be useful to the enemy. So you write about the weather and the food and you ask about the dog and you sign your name and you hope that someday, somehow, this will all mean something. At night, you reread your letters. Your mother's handwriting. Your sister's drawings. These small pieces of paper are the only proof that another world exists. A world where people do not die in mud. A world where the worst thing that happens is the neighbor's cat getting chased. A world you are fighting for but can barely remember anymore. Chapter 15. The routine. You wake up at 4 a.m. Not because you want to, because you have to. Morning stand to is mandatory. Every man in the trench on the fire step, weapon ready, staring into the darkness of no man's land in case the Germans attack at dawn. They usually do not. But the one time you skip stand to might be the one time they do. You stand there in the pre-dawn cold, your rifle heavy in your hands, your eyes scanning the darkness for movement. Nothing happens. Nothing ever happens during morning stand to. But you do it anyway, every morning, because this is the routine, and the routine is what keeps you alive. After stand to, you get breakfast, tea and hardtack and maybe some bacon if the supply situation is good. You eat standing up in the trench because there is nowhere to sit that is not covered in mud. You drink your tea quickly before it gets cold. The warmth spreads through your body and for a few minutes you feel almost human. Then comes inspection. An officer walks the trench line, checking that everyone is present, that weapons are clean, that equipment is in order. You stand at attention while he examines your rifle. He finds a speck of dirt in the barrel. You get a verbal reprimand. You will spend the next hour cleaning your rifle again, making sure there is not a single speck of dirt anywhere. Work parties start after inspection. There is always work to be done in the trenches. Repairing damaged walls. Replacing sandbags that have rotted or been torn by shrapnel. Digging new latrines. Draining flooded sections. Improving firing positions. The work never ends. You spend 4 hours filling sandbags. This is mind-numbing labor. Shovel mud into a bag. Tie the bag closed. Stack it on the wall. Repeat. Your back aches. Your shoulders burn. Your hands blister. But you keep going because stopping means punishment. Lunch is at noon. More tea. More hardtack. Maybe some bully beef if you are lucky. You eat quickly and then you are back to work. More sandbags. More drainage ditches. More repairs that will be undone by the next bombardment. Afternoon is sentry duty. 2 hours on the fire step watching no man's land. Nothing happens. Time moves slowly when you are watching nothing happen. You think about home. You think about the life you used to have. You think about what you will do after the war, if there is an after the war. Evening stand to happens an hour before dusk. Same as morning stand to. Everyone on the fire step. Weapons ready. Staring into no man's land. The Germans might attack at dusk. They usually do not. But you do your stand to anyway because this is the routine. Dinner is at 6 p.m. Stew if the field kitchen managed to get hot food to the front line. Cold rations if they did not. You eat in the darkness because showing lights attracts enemy fire. You cannot see what you are eating. Sometimes this is a blessing. After dinner comes more work. Night work is different from day work. You go out into no man's land to repair barbed wire. You work in the darkness, listening for any sound that might mean the enemy is near. Every noise makes you freeze. Every shadow might be a German patrol. You finish your work and crawl back to the trench, your heart pounding. Sentry duty at night is worse than during the day. You stand in the darkness, seeing shapes that might be men or might be posts. Hearing sounds that might be movement or might be rats. Your imagination creates threats everywhere. You grip your rifle tighter and try to stay alert. Around midnight, you are relieved from sentry duty. You stumble to your dugout and collapse on your blanket. You are asleep in seconds despite the cold, despite the mud, despite the noise of artillery in the distance. Sleep is not restful. You dream of shells and gas and drowning in mud. You wake up several times, disoriented, not sure where you are. And then it is 4 a.m. again. Time for stand to. The routine begins again. Same as yesterday. Same as tomorrow. The days blur together. Monday feels like Thursday feels like Saturday. Time loses meaning when every day is identical. This is your life now. The routine. Stand to. Breakfast. Work. Lunch. Work. Stand to. Dinner. Work. Sentry. Sleep. Repeat. Day after day after day. The routine is boring. The routine is exhausting. The routine is the only thing keeping you from going insane. You realize that the routine is the war. Not the big attacks. Not the dramatic moments. Just this. Endless repetition. Endless labor. Endless vigilance. This is what breaks men. Not the shells or the gas or the fear of death. The grinding, relentless sameness of it all. You used to think war was exciting. You thought it would be adventure and glory and heroism. But war is actually just work. Boring, dangerous, exhausting work. And the work never ends. Chapter 16. The fear. You are afraid all the time. Every moment of every day. Fear is your constant companion. It sits in your stomach like a stone. It makes your hands shake. Keeps you awake at night. It is always there, pressing down on you, suffocating you. The fear is not just about dying. You have made peace with the idea that you might die. Most men do eventually, but the fear is about how you will die. Will it be quick? A bullet through the brain, lights out, no pain? Or will it be slow, drowning in your own blood from a stomach wound? Choking on poison gas? Burning in a bunker hit by a flamethrower? You are afraid of being wounded, of losing limbs, of going blind, of being sent home broken and useless, a burden to your family, stared at by strangers, pitted by everyone. You would almost rather die than face that future. You are afraid of breaking, of cracking under the strain and running away, of being shot as a deserter, of being labeled a coward. Your fear of shame is almost stronger than your fear of death. You would rather die than be known as the boy who ran. The fear makes you hypervigilant. Every sound might be a shell. Every movement might be an attack. You cannot relax. Ever. Your body is in a constant state of alert. Adrenaline always ready. Muscles always tense. This exhausts you, but you cannot stop. Stopping means dying. At night, the fear gets worse. The darkness transforms everything. Shadows become soldiers. The wind becomes whispers. Your mind creates threats that are not there. You know this. You know you are being irrational. But knowing does not help. The fear does not listen to reason. You develop rituals to manage the fear. You touch the ribbon in your pocket every time you go on sentry duty. You say a prayer every time the shelling starts. You never put your left boot on before your right. These rituals are superstition. You know they do not actually protect you, but they give you a sense of control in a situation where you have no control. Some men handle fear better than others. You watch the veterans, the men who have been here for months or even years. They still feel fear. You can see it in their eyes. But they function anyway. They do their jobs. They stay calm under fire. You try to imitate them, hoping that if you act brave, you might start to feel brave. You never do. You just get better at hiding the fear. You learn to keep your hands steady even when they want to shake. You learn to keep your voice calm even when you want to scream. You learn to smile and joke and pretend everything is fine even when you are dying inside. The fear changes you. Before the war, you were afraid of normal things. Thunderstorms, the dark, getting in trouble with your father. Now those fears seem ridiculous. What is a thunderstorm compared to an artillery barrage? What is the dark compared to no man's land at night? What is your father's disappointment compared to dying alone in the mud? You become numb to some fears. The first time you saw a dead body, you vomited. The 10th time, you just stepped over it. Now you walk past corpses without even noticing them. They are just part of the landscape. This numbness scares you almost as much as the fear itself. What kind of person are you becoming? The worst fear is the waiting. Waiting for an attack. Waiting for the shelling to stop. Waiting to go over the top. The waiting is worse than the action. At least when something is happening, you can do something. When you are waiting, you just sit there and imagine all the ways you might die. You learn that fear is contagious. When one man panics, others start to panic. You see it happen during gas attacks. Someone yells, "Gas!" and suddenly everyone is scrambling for their masks, even if there is no gas. The fear spreads like wildfire. You try to stay calm, to be the anchor that keeps others from panicking. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it does not. There are moments when the fear becomes so overwhelming that you cannot function. You freeze. Your mind goes blank. Your body will not move. You want to run, but your legs will not work. You want to scream, but your voice is gone. Someone has to shake you, slap you, snap you out of it. Later, you are ashamed. But in the moment, you are just terrified. You learn to live with the fear. It never goes away. It never gets easier. But you develop a kind of relationship with it. The fear is there always, but you acknowledge it and keep functioning anyway. This is not bravery. This is just survival. Bravery would be not feeling the fear. You feel it constantly. You just do not let it stop you. And sometimes, in quiet moments, you wonder what you will be like after the war. Assuming you survive. Will the fear go with you? Will you flinch at loud noises for the rest of your life? Will you wake up screaming from nightmares 20 years from now? You do not know. Nobody knows. All you know is that the fear has changed you, permanently, irreversibly, and you will never be the person you were before. Chapter 17. The Friendships. The man sleeping in the dugout next to you is named Thomas. He is from Manchester. He is 18 years old, though he lied and said he was 20 when he enlisted. You have known him for 6 weeks. He is your best friend. You would die for him. You know he would die for you. This is what war does. Creates bonds that are deeper than family, stronger than blood. You meet Thomas on your first day in the trenches. He is sitting on a fire step, cleaning his rifle, and he looks up when you stumble past carrying your kit. He says something about the weather. You laugh. It is not funny, but you laugh anyway because laughing is better than crying. He offers you a cigarette even though cigarettes are precious. You do not smoke, but you take it anyway. This is how friendships start in the trenches. Within a week, you know everything about Thomas. His favorite food, his mother's name, the girl he left behind, his dreams for after the war. He wants to be a teacher. You tell him about your own dreams, things you have never told anyone before. The trenches strip away pretense. You cannot maintain walls when you might die tomorrow. You share everything with Thomas. Food, water, blankets, cigarettes. When one of you has a care package from home, you split it evenly. When one of you is on sentry duty, the other brings tea. When one of you has nightmares, the other sits nearby and waits for the shaking to stop. You do not talk about it. You just understand. The other men in your section become your brothers. There is William, who is quiet and serious and never complains. There is George, who tells jokes that are not funny but you laugh anyway. There is Edward, who is only 15 though he claims to be 19. You all know he is lying. Nobody says anything. What would be the point? You watch out for each other. When the shelling starts, you count heads afterward to make sure everyone survived. When someone gets sick, you cover their duties. When someone breaks down crying, you pretend not to notice and give them space. This is what comrades do. But friendships in the trenches are dangerous. Because men die. And when your friend dies, a piece of you dies with them. You learn this the hard way when William gets hit by shrapnel during a bombardment. One moment he is sitting next to you. The next moment he is on the ground, bleeding, looking up at you with confusion in his eyes. You hold his hand while he dies. Takes 7 minutes. You count every second. After William dies, you tell yourself you will not get close to anyone else. It hurts too much, but you cannot help it. Humans are social creatures. You need connection. So you let yourself care about Thomas and George and Edward, even knowing that caring means risking more pain. The bonds you form here are different from anything back home. You never knew your neighbors this well. You never trusted your school friends this completely. But here, your life depends on the man next to you. He will warn you when shells are incoming. He will drag you to safety if you are wounded. He will cover you while you reload. Trust is not optional. It is survival. You develop your own language. Inside jokes that no outsider would understand. References to shared experiences. A look that means danger. A gesture that means all clear. You communicate in glances and nods because talking is not always safe. This silent understanding is deeper than words. Sometimes you hate these men. You hate Thomas for snoring. You hate George for his stupid jokes. You hate Edward for being so young and naive. But the hate is temporary. It fades. The bond remains. Because at the end of the day, these men are all you have. You celebrate small victories together. When a care package arrives with chocolate, you share it and it tastes better because you are sharing it. When someone gets a letter from home with good news, everyone celebrates. When you survive another day, another week, another month, you acknowledge it together with quiet nods and tired smiles. You mourn together too. When George dies, shot by a sniper while on sentry duty, you and Thomas and Edward sit in silence for hours. There are no words. What could you say? He was here and now he is gone. You write letters to his family. You pack up his belongings. You keep going because stopping would dishonor his memory. The friendships make the war bearable. On the worst days, when you think you cannot take another moment, you look at Thomas and he looks at you and you both understand. We can do this. We can survive this. Together. This silent exchange gives you strength you did not know you had. But the friendships also make the war harder. Because now you have something to lose. You used to only worry about your own survival. Now you worry about Thomas. About Edward. About all the men in your section. Their deaths would hurt you more than your own. This makes you vulnerable in a way you never were before. You think about after the war. You and Thomas have plans. You will visit each other. You will introduce each other to your families. You will stay friends forever. These plans keep you going. The future is something to look forward to, something to survive for. As long as you have plans, you have hope. But deep down, you know the truth. Most of you will not survive. The mathematics are brutal. The casualty rates are too high. The war is too long. Someone will die. Probably all of you. The friendships you have formed will end in grief. This knowledge sits in the back of your mind. A dark truth you cannot acknowledge but cannot forget. So you do not think about it. You focus on today, on this moment, on the man next to you who is alive right now, who is your friend right now, who matters right now. Tomorrow can take care of itself. Today you have Thomas. Today you have Edward. Today you are not alone. And that has to be enough. Chapter 18. The Hope. You are sitting in your dugout writing a letter home. When it hits you, you might actually survive this. The thought is so sudden and so strange that you stop writing mid-sentence. You have spent so long accepting that you will probably die that the possibility of survival feels almost alien. Hope is dangerous in the trenches. Hope makes you think about the future. Hope makes you imagine going home. Hope makes you want things, and wanting things makes losing them hurt more. So most men crush hope the moment it appears. It is safer to expect nothing. Safer to live only in the present moment. Safer to not think beyond the next hour. But hope has a way of creeping in. It appears in the small moments. A letter from home. A hot meal. A clear day without shelling. These tiny pieces of normalcy remind you that life exists beyond the trenches. That somewhere people are living normal lives. That you might someday live a normal life again. You hope for the war to end. Everyone does. There are rumors constantly. The Germans are running out of supplies. The Americans are coming. Peace talks are happening. One more big push and it will all be over. You want to believe these rumors. You want to believe that 6 more months, 3 more months, 1 more month, and you will go home. But you have heard these rumors before. They are never true. You hope for small things. A rotation back to rest camp. A day without rain. An extra ration of cigarettes. These hopes are more likely to be fulfilled, which makes them safer to hold on to. When your small hope comes true, when you do get that extra ration or that day without rain, it feels like a victory. You hope to survive the next attack. When you are told your unit is going over the top tomorrow, hope becomes very specific and very immediate. You hope to make it across no man's land. You hope your mask will work if there is gas. You hope you will not get shot. You hope that if you do get shot, it will be quick. These are not grand hopes. These are survival hopes. But they keep you moving forward. You hope to see your family again. This is the big hope, the one you try not to think about too much because it hurts. You picture your mother's face when you walk through the door. Your father's handshake. Your sister throwing her arms around you. These images are so vivid they feel real. But they might never happen. Hoping for them feels like setting yourself up for disappointment. Some men lose hope entirely. You see it in their eyes. They are still functioning, still doing their duties, but something inside them has died. They do not believe they will survive. They do not believe the war will end. They do not believe anything good will happen ever again. These men are dangerous to themselves and others. Men without hope take unnecessary risks. Men without hope give up. You refuse to give up hope. Even on the worst days, even when everything is awful, you find something to hope for. Maybe it is just hoping that the shelling will stop. Maybe it is hoping that tonight's rations will include jam. Maybe it is hoping that you will sleep for an hour without nightmares. Any hope is better than no hope. Religion gives some men hope. They pray. They believe God will protect them. They believe there is a reason for all this suffering. You envy them sometimes. You wish you could have that kind of faith. But you cannot make yourself believe in something you do not feel. So you find your hope in other places. In the ribbon your sister gave you. In the letters from home. In the friendship you have with Thomas. You hope that your suffering means something. That you are fighting for a reason. That when the war ends, the world will be better. This hope is harder to maintain as time goes on and you see more death and more waste and more pointlessness. But you cling to it anyway because the alternative is unbearable. Some days hope feels foolish. You look around at the mud and the bodies and the destruction and you think how stupid it is to hope for anything. This is hell. There is no escape from hell. Hoping for escape is delusional. On those days, you force yourself to find one small thing to hope for. Just one. And you hold onto it until the darkness passes. You hope to be normal again. Not the boy you were before. You know that person is gone forever. But maybe someone new. Someone who can sleep without nightmares. Someone who can hear a loud noise without flinching. Someone who can be happy. This seems impossible now. But you hope for it anyway. The hope keeps you going. On the days when you are too tired to keep going, when your body wants to quit, when your mind wants to break, the hope pushes you forward. One more day, one more hour, one more minute. If you can survive this moment, maybe you can survive the next. Maybe you can survive enough moments to make it home. You know that many men who hope to survive do not. Hope is not armor. It does not stop bullets or deflect shells. But hope is something. It is a light in the darkness. It is a reason to keep breathing. And right now, in the middle of this hell, you will take whatever light you can get. So you hold on to your hope. You protect it like you protect your rifle. You nurture it with letters from home and small victories and the friendship of the men around you. Because hope is the difference between a soldier and a corpse. And you are determined to stay a soldier. You are determined to survive. You are determined to prove that hoping was not foolish. Even if every single thing around you suggests otherwise. Chapter 19. The end. You wake up one morning and something is different. The shelling stopped during the night and has not started again. This is unusual. There is always shelling. The guns never stop. But this morning, there is only silence. The silence is unsettling. You have become so accustomed to the noise that the absence of noise feels wrong. You listen carefully, straining to hear the distant rumble of artillery. Nothing. Just birds. When did the birds come back? You have not heard birds in months. An officer appears in your section of trench. He looks different, less tired, almost excited. He tells you to assemble. Something important is happening. You gather with the other men, wondering what fresh horror awaits. Another attack? A gas bombardment? A retreat? The officer clears his throat. His voice shakes. "Gentlemen," he says, "the war is over. An armistice was signed. Effective at 1100 hours this morning. All hostilities cease." Nobody reacts for a moment. The words do not make sense. The war is over? Over? How can it be over? The war is everything. The war is reality. How can reality just end? And then someone starts laughing. Not happy laughter. Hysterical laughter. The kind that comes when your mind cannot process what is happening. The laughter spreads. Soon everyone is laughing or crying or both. Men are hugging each other. Strangers are shaking hands. Someone is singing. The noise is deafening after the silence. You just stand there. You cannot process it. The war is over. You survived. You actually survived. Thomas is next to you, tears streaming down his face. You realize you are crying too. When did you start crying? You do not remember. The clock ticks toward 11. Everyone is watching the time. When the moment arrives, when 1100 hours hits, something changes. The tension that has been coiled in your chest for months suddenly releases. You take a breath that feels different from every breath before it. This is a breath from peacetime. This is a breath from a world without war. Men are climbing out of the trenches, walking into no man's land. This was forbidden yesterday. Today it is freedom. You climb up and stand on the parapet, fully exposed, waiting for the sniper bullet that does not come. You are standing in the open and nobody is shooting at you. The relief is overwhelming. You walk into no man's land. Thomas is beside you. Other men from your unit are scattered around, walking among the shell craters and the wire. In the distance, you can see German soldiers doing the same thing, walking out of their trenches, standing in the open. Everyone is just standing there, marveling at being alive. A German soldier approaches. He is young, maybe your age. He looks as tired as you feel. He offers you a cigarette. You take it. You smoke together in silence, two boys who were trying to kill each other yesterday, sharing tobacco today. He does not speak English. You do not speak German. But you understand each other perfectly. You spend the day in a daze. The war is over. You are going home. These facts repeat in your head, but they do not feel real. How can you go home? Home is a dream. Home is something you think about but never actually believe you will see. But now you are going home. Actually going home. That night, you sleep more deeply than you have slept in months. No nightmares. No waking to the sound of shells. Just sleep. Deep, dreamless, peaceful sleep. When you wake up, the war is still over. It was not a dream. It actually happened. The days after the armistice are strange. You are still in the trenches, but the fear is gone. You can walk around without worrying about snipers. You can make fires without worrying about artillery. The routine continues, but it feels pointless now. Why are you filling sandbags when the war is over? Slowly, units start to be sent home. You wait for your turn. The waiting is easier now because you know what you are waiting for. You are going home. Actually going home. Not maybe. Not hopefully. Definitely. When your turn finally comes, when you are told to pack your kit and march to the rear, you take one last look at the trench that has been your home for so long. Part of you hates this place. Part of you will miss it. This does not make sense, but it is true. This place almost killed you. This place also made you who you are now. You march away from the front. Every step takes you further from the war. The trenches, the mud, the fear, the death, all of it fading behind you. You pass through villages that are slowly starting to rebuild. You pass fields that will someday grow crops again instead of bodies. You pass places that are healing, and you wonder if you will heal too. The ship crossing the channel is crowded with soldiers going home. Everyone is excited. Everyone is talking about what they will do first. See their families. Sleep in a real bed. Eat real food. Take a bath. All the small things that seem so huge after being denied them for so long. England appears on the horizon. Home. You are home. The ship docks and you walk down the gangplank onto British soil. It is raining. Of course it is raining. But the rain feels different here. Cleaner. Softer. This is English rain, not French rain, and somehow that matters. You take the train to your village. Every mile brings you closer. You see the countryside passing by the window. Green fields. Stone walls. Everything looks exactly the same as when you left. How is that possible? How can the world look the same when you have changed so much? The train stops at your station. You step off with your kit bag. You are wearing your uniform because you have nothing else to wear. You walk through the village. People stop and stare. Some wave. Some just look away. You do not look like the boy who left. You look older, harder, different. You reach your house. The door is the same. The garden is the same. Everything is the same. You raise your hand to knock, then lower it. What if they do not recognize you? What if you do not recognize them? What if you cannot go back to being the person you were? The door opens. Your mother is standing there. She looks older, more gray in her hair, lines around her eyes. She stares at you for a moment, and you see the shock in her expression. This is not the boy she remembers. But then her face breaks into a smile and she pulls you into a hug and you are home. Your father shakes your hand. Your sister, who is taller now, wraps her arms around you. They ask questions. How was it? Are you okay? Are you hungry? You answer automatically. Fine. Yes. Yes. The lies come easily. How can you tell them the truth? How can you explain what you have seen? That night you lie in your old bed. It is soft. Too soft. You cannot sleep. The silence is too quiet. The safety is too strange. You get up and lie on the floor. This is better. This is more familiar. This makes sense in a way the bed does not. You know you are home. You know you survived. But you also know that a part of you is still in France. Still in the trenches. Still 16 years old and terrified and trying to survive. That part will never leave. That part will stay in the mud forever. Welcome home, soldier. The war is over. Chapter 20. But for you, it will never really end. Never get. You have not slept properly in 6 months. Not really slept. Not the deep, restful sleep you used to take for granted back home. What you get now is not sleep. It is unconsciousness interrupted by terror. a series of brief blackouts between nightmares and the reality that is somehow worse than the nightmares. You are exhausted all the time. Bone-deep exhaustion that makes your limbs feel like lead and your thoughts move like honey. You can feel it in your eyes, gritty and dry. You can feel it in your muscles, constantly aching. You can feel it in your mind, which is starting to play tricks on you because sleep deprivation does that to a person. The problem is that there is nowhere to sleep. Not really. Your dugout is cold and wet and cramped. The floor is mud. The ceiling drips. There is no door, just a piece of canvas that does nothing to keep out the noise or the cold or the smell. You lie down on your blanket and immediately feel the dampness seeping through. And then there is the noise. The guns never stop. Even when your section of the front is quiet, you can hear artillery firing somewhere else. The rumble is constant. It vibrates through the earth, through your body, through your bones. You learn to sleep through it, sort of. Your body shuts down from exhaustion even though your mind is screaming at you to stay alert. Sleep comes in short bursts. 20 minutes here, 30 minutes there. Never more than an hour at a time. Because just when you finally drift off, something wakes you up. A shell landing nearby. A rat running across your chest. Your own body jerking awake because it thinks you are falling. Or the sergeant shaking you because it is your turn for sentry duty. Sentry duty is its own special torture when you are this tired. You stand on the fire step in the darkness, your rifle in your hands, trying to keep your eyes open. Your eyelids feel like they weigh 10 pounds each. You blink and for a second you are asleep standing up. You snap awake, terrified that you missed something, that the Germans are already in the trench and you did not see them because you fell asleep for 3 seconds. Some men fall asleep on sentry duty. You have seen it happen. A man slumps against the trench wall, eyes closed, rifle loose in his hands. If an officer catches him, it is a court-martial offense. Sleeping on duty can get you executed. Shot by your own side for the crime of being too exhausted to stay awake. But the exhaustion does not care about the rules. The exhaustion will take you whether you want it to or not. The dreams are the worst part. When you finally do fall asleep, when your body forces itself into unconsciousness despite everything, the dreams come. They are not dreams. They are nightmares. Vivid, horrifying nightmares that feel more real than reality. You dream about drowning in mud. You can feel it filling your mouth, your nose, your lungs. You cannot breathe. You cannot move. You are sinking and nobody is helping you and you are going to die. You wake up gasping, clawing at your face, trying to clear away mud that is not there. You dream about gas attacks. You cannot find your mask. You are searching desperately, tearing through your kit, but it is not there. The gas is coming. You can see the yellow-green cloud rolling toward you. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. You wake up, and for a moment you are not sure if you are still dreaming. You reach for your mask, just to make sure it is real. You dream about the men who died. William with the shrapnel wound. George shot by a sniper. Men whose names you never learned. Just faces you saw for a moment before they died. They visit you in your dreams. Sometimes they are angry. Sometimes they are sad. Sometimes they just look at you with empty eyes and you do not know what they want. The worst dreams are the ones where you are home. You are back in your village, sitting at the kitchen table, eating dinner with your family. Everything is normal. Everything is perfect. And then you wake up and you are in a muddy dugout in France and the disappointment is crushing. Those dreams hurt more than the nightmares. At least the nightmares match your reality. You learn to dread sleep. This should not be possible. Sleep is supposed to be a refuge. But for you, sleep means nightmares. It means waking up screaming. It means that moment of confusion when you open your eyes and cannot remember where you are. So you try to stay awake. You fight the exhaustion. You drink tea. You move around. You do anything to avoid sleeping. But you cannot avoid it forever. Eventually your body just shuts down. You are in the middle of a sentence and suddenly you are unconscious. You wake up 2 hours later, slumped against the trench wall, with no memory of falling asleep. This is dangerous. You could fall asleep during a gas attack. You could fall asleep when you are supposed to be on sentry duty. You could fall asleep and never wake up. Some men start hallucinating from lack of sleep. You see them talking to people who are not there, seeing things in no man's land that do not exist, hearing voices. The line between dreaming and waking blurs when you are this tired. You start to lose track of what is real. You wonder if you are hallucinating sometimes. That shadow that looked like a German soldier, was it real or did you imagine it? That voice you heard calling for help, was someone actually out there or was it in your head? You cannot tell anymore. Your mind is playing tricks and you do not trust your own perceptions. The exhaustion makes everything harder. Simple tasks take twice as long. You forget things. You drop things. You make mistakes that could get you killed. Loading your rifle becomes complicated because your fingers will not cooperate. Following orders is difficult because you cannot focus long enough to understand what is being said. When you get rotated back to a rest area, you think you will finally sleep. You are in a barn or a billet, away from the front, away from the immediate danger. You lie down on straw or on a floor that is merely uncomfortable instead of wet. This should be paradise. But you still cannot sleep properly. Your body does not know how to relax anymore. You lie there, exhausted beyond measure, and your mind will not shut off. You think about the men who died. You think about the next rotation back to the front. You think about everything that could go wrong. The exhaustion is mental now, not just physical. You are tired of being afraid, tired of being cold, tired of being you. And when you do sleep in the rest area, the nightmares come harder. Maybe because you are finally safe enough for your mind to process what you have been through. Maybe because your guard is down. Either way, you wake up screaming. The other men in the barn barely react. They are having their own nightmares. You learn that exhaustion is cumulative. You are not just tired from yesterday or last week. You are carrying months of missed sleep. Years, maybe. You can feel it piling up. This debt of rest that you can never repay. Even if the war ended tomorrow, even if you went home and slept for a week straight, you would still be tired. This exhaustion has seeped into your bones. It is part of you now. There are rumors that some men sleep and do not wake up. Their hearts just stop from the strain of it all. You do not know if these rumors are true, but you believe them. Your body can only take so much. At some point, it will give up. Maybe that would be a mercy. You fantasize about sleep the way other men fantasize about food or women or home. You imagine a bed with clean sheets, a room that is quiet and dark, 8 hours of uninterrupted rest. No nightmares, no shells, no rats, just sleep, deep, healing, restful sleep. This fantasy is so vivid it hurts. But sleep is a luxury you cannot afford. There is always something that needs doing, always a duty to perform. Always a reason to stay awake just a little bit longer. And so you push through the exhaustion. You function on tea and adrenaline and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. You become a kind of walking corpse, not quite alive but not quite dead either. Just existing in this gray space between sleeping and waking, between sanity and madness, between human and something else. Chapter 21. The Punishment. You are standing at attention in the reserve trench. An officer is pacing back and forth in front of you. You have been standing here for 30 minutes. Your legs ache, your back hurts, but you do not move. You do not even blink, because you are being punished. Your crime is minor. You were late for morning stand to. You overslept by 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Back home, this would mean nothing. Here, it is a serious offense, because discipline is everything in the army. Without discipline, without absolute obedience to orders, the whole system falls apart. So you are being punished. The officer is telling you what a disgrace you are, how you have let down your unit, how men die because other men do not follow orders. You listen with your eyes straight ahead, not looking at him, not reacting. This is field punishment number 2. You stand at attention while an officer verbally tears you apart. It is designed to humiliate you. It is working. After the officer finishes, you are given extra duties. You will spend the next week pulling double shifts on work parties, filling sandbags, digging latrines, repairing duckboards, all the worst jobs, all the hardest labor, all while getting less sleep than usual. This is your punishment for being 10 minutes late. But you are lucky. Field punishment number 2 is nothing compared to field punishment number 1. You have seen men get field punishment number 1. It is brutal. The condemned soldier is tied to a fixed object for up to 2 hours a day. Sometimes it is a wagon wheel. Sometimes it is a post. Sometimes it is the trench wall. His arms are stretched out, his body exposed. This happens in view of the enemy. The Germans can see him. They can shoot him if they want. Most of them do not because they understand that this is punishment and it would be unsporting. But the risk is there. Field punishment number 1 lasts for up to 28 days. 2 hours every day, tied up like an animal. And during those 2 hours, other soldiers are encouraged to mock the prisoner, to spit on him, to remind him that he is a disgrace. It is designed to break a man's spirit. Often it works. You watch a man go through field punishment number 1. His crime was refusing an order. An officer told him to go on a patrol in no man's land, and he said no. Just no. He was too tired, too scared, too broken to do it. So they tied him to a wagon wheel. Every day for 2 weeks. By the end, he is different. Something in his eyes has died. He follows orders now without question. The punishment worked. Some punishments are worse. Men who desert or try to desert face court-martial. If found guilty, they can be sentenced to death. Execution by firing squad. You have never witnessed an execution, but you have heard about them. The condemned man is blindfolded, tied to a post. A firing squad of 12 men shoots him. One of the 12 has a blank round, so no one knows who actually killed him. This is supposed to make it easier. It does not. The military police are everywhere. They watch for deserters, for malingerers, for anyone who is not doing their duty. You see them in the rest areas, checking papers, looking for men who are absent without leave. They are not sympathetic. Their job is to catch soldiers who are trying to escape and send them back to the front, or to the firing squad. Minor infractions are common and punishment is swift. Showing up dirty for inspection? Extra duty. Rifle not clean enough? Extra duty. Speaking out of turn to an officer? Extra duty. The system is designed to enforce absolute compliance through constant threat of punishment. You learn to follow the rules perfectly, not because you believe in them, but because punishment makes your life even worse than it already is. You are already cold, tired, scared, and hungry. Adding extra duty on top of that might actually break you. So you do what you are told when you are told exactly how you are told to do it. But the rules are sometimes impossible to follow. How do you keep your rifle clean when you are living in mud? How do you show up on time when the trenches are flooded and you are wading through waist-deep water? How do you stay alert on sentry duty when you have not slept in 3 days? The Army does not care about these excuses. The rules are the rules. You see men break under the punishment system. They start making mistakes. They accumulate more punishments. They enter a spiral where they are being punished constantly, which makes them more exhausted, which makes them make more mistakes, which leads to more punishment. Some men never escape this spiral. They just break completely. There is also informal punishment. If you do something that annoys your sergeant but is not technically against the rules, he will find ways to make your life miserable. You get the worst duties. You get assigned to the most dangerous positions. You get less food, worse equipment, no time off. This is how the non-commissioned officers maintain control. Through fear and arbitrary cruelty, you learn to keep your head down. Do your job. Do not complain. Do not stand out. Being noticed is dangerous. The soldiers who get noticed get punished. Or they get volunteered for suicide missions. Or they get transferred to worse units. Invisibility is survival. The irony is that you are already in hell. You are already living in the worst conditions imaginable. And somehow the Army has found ways to make it worse. The threat of punishment hangs over everything you do. It is not enough to survive the Germans. You also have to survive your own officers. Some men think about killing their officers. You hear whispers about fragging, about accidents during battles where an unpopular officer gets shot from behind. You do not know if these things actually happen or if they are just fantasy, but you understand the impulse. When the people who are supposed to be leading you are instead adding to your suffering through petty punishment and arbitrary rules, the resentment builds. But you do not act on these thoughts, because the punishment for killing an officer is death. And the army will make an example of you. They will make sure every soldier knows what happens to men who fight back against the system. So you swallow your anger. You endure the punishment. You do what you are told. And somehow, in this place where death is random and meaningless, where shells fall without warning and disease kills without mercy, the army has managed to create a system where the worst thing that can happen to you is not death. It is punishment. It is being humiliated in front of your peers. It is extra duty. It is being tied to a wheel in view of the enemy. The army has found a way to make fear of authority stronger than fear of death. You wonder what this does to a person. To live under this level of control. To have every aspect of your life regulated and punished. You are 16 years old and you have no freedom at all. You cannot leave. You cannot rest. You cannot even sleep late by 10 minutes without facing consequences. This breaks something in you. It breaks something in everyone. Chapter 22. The breaking. You are watching a man lose his mind. It is happening slowly, right in front of you, and there is nothing you can do about it. His name is Private Robert Clark. He is 19 years old. 3 days ago, he was fine, or as fine as anyone gets in the trenches. Today, he is sitting in the bottom of the trench, rocking back and forth, talking to someone who is not there. This is shell shock, combat fatigue, neurasthenia. The doctors have different names for it. The soldiers just call it breaking, because that is what happens. Something inside a man breaks. The thing that holds him together, that keeps him functioning, that makes him human, it breaks. And once it breaks, it does not go back together. You saw the signs before Clark broke completely. He started flinching at every sound. Not just the big sounds like artillery. Every sound. A spoon dropping. A man coughing. Footsteps on the duckboards. Each sound made him jump like he had been shocked. His eyes were always wide. Always darting around. Looking for threats that were not there. He stopped eating. You would sit next to him at meals and watch him stare at his rations without touching them. You asked if he was okay. He said he was fine. But he was not fine. You could see him getting thinner. His uniform hanging looser. His face becoming gaunt. But he would not eat. Then came the shaking. His hands would not stay still. He tried to hold his rifle and it shook so badly he could barely grip it. He tried to light a cigarette and dropped the match 3 times before giving up. The tremors were constant, like his body was trying to vibrate itself apart. The tipping point came during a bombardment. Not even a bad one, just routine shelling that happens every day. But Clark could not handle it. He started screaming. Not words, just screaming, high-pitched and constant. He dropped his rifle and curled into a ball in the bottom of the trench, covering his head with his hands, screaming and screaming and screaming. The medic was called. He tried to calm Clark down. It did not work. They had to physically carry him to the aid station. He was still screaming. You could hear him even after they took him away. The sound carried through the trenches for 15 minutes before it finally stopped. You hear later that Clark has been sent to a hospital. A special hospital for men who have broken. You do not know what happens in these hospitals. The rumors are contradictory. Some say they help. Some say they use electric shocks to cure cowardice. Some say men are never the same after. You do not know what to believe. But Clark is not the first man you have seen break. And he will not be the last. The breaking happens all the time. It is just that most men break in smaller ways. They do not scream or become catatonic. They just stop caring. Stop trying. Stop hoping. They become hollow. Going through the motions but not really present. These men are almost worse than the ones who break completely. Because they are still functioning, still following orders, but they are dead inside. You wonder when you will break. Not if, when. Because you can feel it inside yourself. The cracks forming. The pressure building. Every day adds another pound to the weight you are carrying. Every death adds another crack. Every hour of fear adds another stressor. At some point, something has to give. You have developed tics. You did not have them before. Now you do. You touch the ribbon in your pocket constantly. Dozens of times an hour. You have to make sure it is still there. If you go more than a few minutes without checking, you start to panic. This is not rational. You know this, but you cannot stop yourself. You have stopped being able to make decisions, even simple ones. Someone asks if you want tea or water. You cannot answer. Both options seem equally impossible. Your mind locks up. You stand there, frozen, unable to choose between tea and water. Eventually someone just hands you tea and you drink it. But the paralysis is getting worse. You talk to yourself. You did not used to do this. Now you have conversations in your head that sometimes leak out as whispers. You are explaining things to yourself, reassuring yourself, telling yourself you can do this. Just a little longer. Just one more day. The internal monologue has become external. Other soldiers notice, but nobody says anything. Everyone has their own signs of breaking. Sleep is when the breaking shows most clearly. You have nightmares every night now. They are getting worse, more vivid, more violent. You wake up screaming at least twice a week. Sometimes more. The other men in your dugout have stopped reacting. They know. They have their own nightmares. During the day, you dissociate. This is a new development. You will be doing something, filling sandbags or cleaning your rifle, and suddenly you are not there anymore. Your body keeps working, but your mind is somewhere else. Sometimes you are home. Sometimes you are nowhere, just floating in a gray space where nothing can hurt you. Then you snap back and realize 10 minutes have passed and you do not remember any of it. You have stopped feeling things normally. When something good happens, like getting a letter from home or extra rations, you feel nothing. When something bad happens, like a friend dying, you feel nothing. The emotions are there, somewhere deep inside, but you cannot access them. It is like you are wrapped in cotton. Everything is muffled. Everything is distant. Thomas notices. He asks if you are okay. You tell him you are fine. You can hear your voice. Sounds normal, but you are not fine. You are breaking, just slower than Clark. More quietly, in a way that lets you keep functioning. But you are breaking nonetheless. You see other signs of breaking in the men around you. Edward has started collecting things. Buttons, bits of wire, shell fragments. He carries them in his pockets and takes them out to count them during quiet moments. This is not normal, but nobody stops him. Maybe his collection is what keeps him from breaking completely. An older soldier, a man who has been at the front for 2 years, tells you that everyone breaks eventually. Some men break and get sent home. Some break and keep fighting. Some break and die. But everyone breaks. The human mind was not designed for this. It cannot process this level of sustained horror. Something has to give. You start to understand that being brave is not about not being afraid. It is about functioning while breaking. It is about doing your duty even though your mind is shattering. It is about holding on just a little bit longer even though you can feel yourself falling apart. This is not the heroism the posters showed. This is just desperate endurance. You wonder what you will be like after the war. If you survive, will you be able to put yourself back together? Or will you be like the veterans you have seen, the ones with the hollow eyes and the shaking hands, the ones who cannot adjust to normal life because normal life is incomprehensible after the trenches? Maybe breaking is permanent. Maybe you are damaged forever. At night, lying in your dugout, you can feel yourself slipping. The edges of your sanity are fraying. You are holding on, but only just. And the war is not over. The suffering is not done. You have to keep going. Keep functioning. Keep surviving. Even though you are breaking. Even though everyone around you is breaking. Even though the breaking might be the most honest response to this entire nightmare. You understand Clark now. The man who screamed and had to be carried away. You understand him completely, because you want to scream too. You want to curl up and give up and let someone else deal with everything. But you cannot. Not yet. So you hold on. One more day. One more hour. One more minute. And you pray that when you finally do break, it happens somewhere behind the lines. Somewhere safe. Somewhere where they cannot shoot you for it. Conclusion. So, how has your day been? You woke up in a trench full of mud and rats. You stood sentry duty in the freezing cold, waiting for an attack that might or might not come. You ate food that barely qualifies as food. You dodged shells and bullets and gas. You watched friends die. You lived in constant fear. You endured conditions that would break most people in hours. And you did it all while being 16 years old. Let us be clear about what you experienced. You were a child. Not legally, maybe. You said you were 19 and the army pretended to believe you. But you were a child. Children should not have to see the things you saw. Children should not have to do the things you did. Children should not have to carry the weight you carried. But here is the wildest part about everything we have just gone through. You were not special. You were not an exception. There were hundreds of thousands of boys just like you. 16, 17, 15 in some cases. All of them lying about their age. All of them thinking war would be an adventure. All of them learning the truth too late. The statistics are horrifying. The British Army suffered over 900,000 deaths in World War I. Almost 1 million men. And that is just deaths. The wounded, the gassed, the shell-shocked, those numbers are even higher. Entire generations were decimated. Villages lost all their young men. Families lost sons, brothers, fathers. And what did it accomplish? What did all that suffering and death actually achieve? The war ended. Germany lost. The Treaty of Versailles was signed. And 20 years later, the world did it all over again. World War II. More trenches. More gas. More death. Different weapons, same nightmare. Think about that for a moment. All those boys who lied about their age and went to war and suffered and died. They died for a peace that lasted barely 2 decades. The war to end all wars ended nothing. It just set the stage for an even bigger war. But here is what did come from it. Those boys who survived, they came home changed. They became the lost generation. They wrote poetry and novels trying to make sense of what they experienced. Wilfred Owen, Siegfried Sassoon, Robert Graves. Their words tried to capture the horror, and even they admitted their words could not fully convey it. They became the men who would have to fight World War II, or send their sons to fight it. They became the generation that understood, more than any before them, the true cost of war. Not the glory, not the honor, the cost. The mud and the gas and the fear and the death. And slowly, over decades, the world started to listen, started to understand that war is not adventure. War is not glorious. War is hell. Necessary sometimes, maybe, but never something to celebrate. Never something to rush into. Never something to lie about your age for. The trenches of World War I are gone now. Filled in, grown over, transformed back into farmland. You can visit the sites, see the memorials, walk through preserved sections of trench that have been sanitized and made safe for tourists. But these preserved trenches are nothing like the real thing. They are clean. They are dry. They do not smell like death. They are history, not reality. The real trenches exist only in memory now. The memories of the men who were there. And those men are gone. The last veteran of World War I died in 2012. Every single person who actually experienced what we just talked about is dead. Their stories survive only in their writings, in their letters, in the history books. But here is what you need to understand. Those boys who lied about their age and went to war, they did it because they were told it was the right thing to do. They were told they would be heroes. They were told it would be over quickly. They were told lies, essentially. And those lies cost them everything. So tonight, when you go to sleep in your comfortable bed, in your heated room, with no shells falling and no gas drifting and no rats crawling and no mud seeping, maybe think about those boys. Maybe say a quiet thank you that you were not born in 1899 or 1900. Maybe appreciate that the worst thing you have to worry about is your phone battery dying or your internet being slow. Because those problems, as annoying as they feel, are nothing. Nothing at all. Compared to what those boys went through, your worst day is their best day. Your biggest fear is their smallest concern. The gap between your reality and theirs is so vast it is almost impossible to comprehend. And maybe, just maybe, remember them, not as heroes, not as victims, just as boys. Boys who should have been going to school, learning a trade, falling in love, living their lives. Boys who instead went to war and experienced hell and came home broken or did not come home at all. They deserve to be remembered, not for dying, but for living, for surviving, for enduring the unendurable, for being 16 years old and doing things that would break a grown man, for being human in the most inhuman conditions imaginable. So that is it. That is what it was like to be a teenage soldier in World War I. That is the reality behind the medals and the monuments and the minute of silence on November 11th. That is the truth that the propaganda posters did not show and the recruitment officers did not mention. It sucked. It sucked worse than anything most of us can imagine. And those boys went through it anyway, because they thought they had to, because they were told it was their duty, because they were children who believed the adults knew what they were talking about. Rest well tonight, knowing that you will never have to experience what they experienced. And if you remember anything from tonight's journey, remember this. War is not glorious. War is not adventure. War is mud and fear and death and boys lying about their age because they do not know any better. Thank you for joining me on this one. Sleep well. Dream of better times. And maybe spare a thought for the boys who never got to. Good night.